What happens when a respected television host tries to have a normal conversation with a guest, only to see everything spiral out of control in seconds? In just 38 seconds, Jasmine Crockett managed to shatter her own reputation and get herself kicked off one of America's most watched talk shows. This is the story of how one guest turned a simple interview into total television chaos. Bill Maher had been running his show for decades. He knew how to handle tough guests. He knew how to keep conversations smooth. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for what Jasmine Crockett was about to unleash. The studio lights glared down brightly, making everything shimmer. The audience sat in eager anticipation, expecting thoughtful discussion and maybe a few laughs. Bill, as always, looked impeccable in his dark suit, his notes neatly arranged, questions lined up, everything appearing perfectly normal. Then Jasmine walked onto the set with poise and confidence. She smiled, waved at the audience, and shook hands with Bill before taking her seat across from him. The cameras rolled. The show began. "Welcome back, everyone," Bill said warmly to the camera, his voice smooth and inviting. "Tonight, I have with me Jasmine Crockett, who has been making headlines recently for her work in politics. Jasmine, thanks for being here." "Thanks for having me, Bill," Jasmine replied, settling into her chair. She looked calm, comfortable, even relaxed. "So, let's start with something simple," Bill continued, glancing at his notes. "You've been very vocal about several issues lately. What would you say drives your passion for public service?" It was a perfect softball question, the kind that lets a guest share their background, motivations, and goals. Most people would smile and offer a thoughtful answer about wanting to help others or make a difference in their community. But Jasmine's expression shifted. Her smile disappeared. Her eyes narrowed. "You know what drives me, Bill?" she said, leaning forward in her chair. "What drives me is people like you sitting in your comfortable studios asking questions like you actually care about the answers." The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Bill raised his eyebrows, clearly caught off guard by the sudden hostility. "I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that," he said, keeping his tone calm and professional. "Oh, you understand exactly what I mean," Jasmine shot back. "You media types are all the same. You bring people like me on your shows so you can look diverse and inclusive. But you don't actually want to hear what we have to say." Bill set down his pen and locked eyes with his guest. "Jasmine, I brought you on the show because I thought you had interesting perspectives to share. I'm genuinely interested in hearing your thoughts." "Interesting perspectives?" Jasmine laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's rich coming from someone who has built his entire career on mocking people who look like me." The tension in the studio became almost unbearable. Audience members exchanged uneasy glances, and even the camera operators seemed to hold their breath behind the lenses. "I think there might be some misunderstanding here," Bill said, voice steady despite the rising storm. "I've never mocked anyone based on their appearance or background. I try to treat all my guests with respect." "Respect?" Jasmine's voice rose, louder now. "You call this respect? Bringing me on here to be your token guest so you can check off your diversity box?" Bill inhaled deeply, sensing the escalation spiraling beyond anything he'd experienced. "Jasmine, I think we may have gotten off on the wrong foot here. Why don't we start over? Tell me about the issues that matter most to you." But Jasmine wasn't interested in starting over. She was just getting warmed up. "The issues that matter most to me," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "How about the issue of hosts like you pretending to care about real problems while you sit in your ivory tower making jokes about everything?" "I do care about real problems," Bill replied, a slight edge creeping into his voice for the first time. "That's why I do this show. That's why I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to discuss important topics." "Important topics?" Jasmine shot back, standing up from her chair and catching everyone completely off guard. You think this is important? You think sitting here in your fancy studio talking about politics like it's some kind of game is important? The audience went completely silent. Bill remained seated, but his posture shifted. He was clearly trying to maintain control of the situation. Jasmine, please sit down, he said calmly. Let's have a conversation like adults. Like adults? Jasmine's voice rose to a fever pitch. You want to talk like adults? Then let's talk about how you and people like you have been part of the problem for years. Bill finally stood, but every movement was measured and controlled. I'm going to ask you one more time. Please sit down and let's discuss this calmly. This is my show, and I'm trying to have a respectful conversation with you. Your show? Jasmine laughed again, that same bitter, cutting laugh from before. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Your show, your rules, your way of doing things. Well, maybe I don't want to play by your rules anymore. The situation was spinning completely out of control. Bill glanced toward his producers off camera, clearly seeking guidance on handling what was quickly becoming impossible. Jasmine, I understand you may have strong feelings about certain topics, Bill said, making one last attempt to salvage the interview. But we need to be able to discuss things in a civil manner. Civil manner? Jasmine's eyes flashed with anger. You want to talk about civility while you sit there in your position of privilege, judging everyone else? I'm not judging anyone, Bill replied, his patience wearing thin. I'm trying to have a discussion. A discussion? Jasmine stepped closer to Bill's desk, her intensity radiating through the studio. This isn't a discussion. This is you trying to control the narrative like you always do. At the edges of the camera frame, the security team was now visible, ready to step in if necessary. Bill noticed them and raised a hand, signaling them to hold back. Jasmine, I need you to calm down, he said firmly. We can disagree about things, but we need to do it respectfully. But respectful disagreement was clearly not on Jasmine's mind. She was about to cross the line that would end her television appearance forever. You know what your problem is, Bill? Jasmine said, her voice now dripping with venom. You think you're so much better than everyone else because you have this little platform. But you're nothing but a washed-up comedian who got lucky. The words hit the studio like a slap. Even the camera operator flinched. Bill's face went pale, but he held his composure. That was uncalled for, he said quietly. I've been nothing but respectful to you since you walked onto the stage. Respectful? Jasmine threw her head back and laughed loudly. You call this respect? You call bringing me on here to be your dancing monkey respectful? I brought you on to discuss important issues, Bill replied, his voice firmer now. Issues that you said you cared about, but instead of having that conversation, you've chosen to attack me personally. Attack you? Jasmine's eyes widened in mock surprise. Oh, poor Bill. Did I hurt your little feelings? Are you going to cry about it? The audience sat stunned, some with their mouths hanging open, completely unable to believe what was unfolding before their eyes. Others in the studio were looking around nervously, wondering if they should leave. The atmosphere had grown electric, charged with a dangerous mix of anger and disbelief. Jasmine, I'm going to give you one last chance to sit down and have a civilized discussion, Bill said, his patience finally cracking. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Ask me to leave? Jasmine laughed louder this time, a sharp mocking sound that echoed through the studio. You can't handle the truth, so you want to kick me out? That's typical. That's exactly what I expected from someone like me, Bill repeated, eyebrows raised, struggling to stay calm. What exactly do you mean by that? You know exactly what I mean, Jasmine snapped, pointing her finger directly at him. You privileged, out-of-touch, fake liberals who think you can solve all the world's problems from behind your desk. Bill took a careful step back, trying to process the venom being hurled at him. I have never claimed to solve all the world's problems, he said. I'm just trying to have conversations about them. That's what this show is for. Conversation. Conversations? Jasmine's voice reached a new burning intensity. You mean lectures. You mean you talking down to people while pretending to be on their side? I don't talk down to anyone. Bill's voice rose for the first time, cracking the tension in the room even more. I treat my guests as equals, and I expect the same in return. Equals? Jasmine moved even closer to his desk, her presence aggressive and unrelenting. You think we're equals? You think someone like you could ever understand what someone like me goes through? I don't claim to understand everyone's experiences, Bill said firmly. That's why I have guests on the show. To learn from different perspectives. Learn? Jasmine laughed, a sound now almost maniacal. The only thing you want to learn is how to look good for your audience. You don't care about real people or real problems. Bill looked directly into the camera, then back at Jasmine, trying to regain control. I care deeply about real problems, he said. But I can't have a productive conversation with someone who refuses to engage in good faith. Good faith? Jasmine slammed her hand on the desk, making everyone in the studio jump. How about we talk about how you built your career making fun of people who can't fight back? That's not true, Bill said firmly. I've always punched up, never down. I go after powerful people who deserve criticism. Powerful people? Jasmine's voice sharpened to a shrill pitch. You go after anyone who gets you ratings. You don't care who you hurt, as long as people keep watching. The tension in the studio was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Security had moved closer, lurking just outside the camera frame, ready to step in if necessary. Jasmine, you're making accusations that simply aren't true, Bill said, trying to calm the storm. And you're doing it in front of a live audience who came here to see a thoughtful discussion. Thoughtful discussion? Jasmine turned to the audience, her voice dripping with contempt. Is this what you call thoughtful? Him sitting there, acting like he's better than everyone else? Several audience members shifted uneasily. Some whispered to each other, while others pulled out their phones, likely posting in real time about the chaos unfolding. The audience came here to see a civil conversation, Bill said, voice rising with authority. Not to watch someone have a public meltdown. You call this a meltdown? Jasmine screamed, pushing herself even closer. This is me telling the truth for once on your fake show. This is my show, Bill said, voice now carrying undeniable authority. And I'm asking you to leave. Your show, your rules, your world, Jasmine said mockingly, stepping around to the side of his desk, getting uncomfortably close. Well, guess what, Bill? Not everyone has to play by your rules anymore. Jasmine, I need you to step back, Bill commanded, signaling subtly to security with a hand gesture, ready to regain control of a situation that had gone completely off the rails. Or what? She challenged, voice sharp as a whip. You'll call security? You'll have me dragged out of here? Is that how you handle people who tell you the truth? I handle people who can't control themselves by asking them to leave, Bill replied, calm but firm. Which is exactly what I'm doing right now. Control myself? Jasmine's voice exploded to a crescendo. I'm perfectly in control. I am in control enough to tell you exactly what I think of you and your pathetic excuse for a show. Two security guards had now stepped into camera view, moving slowly but purposefully toward the desk area. Ma'am, we need you to come with us, one of the guards said politely but firmly. Don't you dare touch me, Jasmine snapped at the guard before spinning back to Bill. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment someone challenges you, you have them removed. I'm having you removed because you're being disruptive and disrespectful, Bill said evenly. Not because you're challenging me. Disruptive? Jasmine's laugh had become almost hysterical. The truth is, disruptive to people like you, isn't it? The security guards edged closer, careful to handle the situation as gently as possible. Ma'am, Please come with us voluntarily, the first guard said again. Jasmine's eyes darted around the studio wildly, as if only now realizing where she was. But instead of calming down, she grew more agitated. You think you can silence me? She shouted, backing away from the guards but moving closer to the audience. You think you can just make me disappear because I'm telling the truth about what kind of person you really are? Bill remained behind his desk, watching the chaos with a mix of concern and disbelief. Nobody is trying to silence you, he said steadily. You're welcome to share your opinions, but you need to do it respectfully, and you need to stay in your designated area. Respectfully? Jasmine spun around to face him again. I'll show you the same respect you've shown to every guest who's ever disagreed with you, which is none. The audience was visibly uncomfortable now. Some were standing, clearly wanting to leave. Others were filming every moment on their phones. Ma'am, we really need you to come with us now, the second guard said, stepping closer. Don't you come near me, Jasmine warned, pointing at both guards. I know my rights. You can't just drag me out for speaking my mind. We can remove you for disrupting the show and refusing to follow basic safety protocols, the first guard said calmly. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Jasmine's eyes scanned the studio wildly, searching for an escape or an ally. Finding none, she turned back to Bill, fury radiating from every word. This is what you do, isn't it? She shouted. When someone calls you out on your garbage, you have them removed. When someone won't play your little game, you silence them. I'm not silencing anyone, Bill said, stepping slightly away from his desk. You're silencing yourself with this behavior. You had a platform here tonight to share your message, and instead you chose to attack me personally. Attack you? Jasmine's voice cracked with raw emotion. I'm telling the truth about you. I'm telling the truth about this whole fake setup you've created here. She gestured wildly around the studio. This whole thing is a lie. The lights, the cameras, the audience, the fake conversations, it's all designed to make you look good and make your guests look foolish. That's simply not true, Bill replied firmly. I've had thousands of guests on this show over the years. Most of them have been treated with respect and have had productive conversation. Productive for who? Jasmine demanded. Productive for your ratings, productive for your ego, because they certainly haven't been productive for the people whose lives you make jokes about. The security guards exchanged glances and moved closer, clearly preparing to physically escort her if necessary. Ma'am, this is your final warning, the first guard said. Please come with us voluntarily, or we will have to remove you. Remove me then? Jasmine shot back defiantly. Show everyone what happens when someone dares to tell Bill Maher the truth about himself. Bill stepped forward slightly, trying one last time to defuse the situation. Jasmine, you still have time to salvage this, he said. You can sit down. We can finish this interview professionally, and you can make your points in a way people will actually listen to. Salvage this? Jasmine laughed bitterly. The only thing that needs salvaging is your reputation, after people see how you treat guests who don't bow down to you. I treat guests the way they treat me, Bill said firmly. You came on here hostile from the very first question. I've been trying to have a civil conversation this entire time. Civil conversation? Jasmine's voice hit a new piercing pitch. There's nothing civil about this setup. There's nothing civil about bringing people on here just so you can make them look bad. She pointed accusingly at him. You're a fraud, Bill Maher, she declared loudly. You're a fake liberal who pretends to care about progress while you tear down anyone who actually tries to make real change. The audience gasped. Even for a show known for controversy, this was unprecedented. That's enough, Bill said, his voice finally carrying true authority. Security, please escort Miss Crockett out of the building. You can't handle the truth, can you? Jasmine shouted as the guards approached. You can't handle someone who won't play your little game. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us right now," the first guard said, reaching out to guide her gently but firmly toward the exit. "Get your hands off me," Jasmine yelled, pulling away. "I'll leave, but I'm not going quietly." She turned toward the camera one last time. "Remember this moment," she said, speaking directly to viewers at home. "Remember what happens when someone tries to tell the truth on Bill Maher's show. They get silenced, they get removed, they get treated like criminals. You're being removed for being disruptive," Bill called after her. "Not for your opinions. My opinions?" Jasmine laughed bitterly as the guards began escorting her toward the exit. "My opinions are too real for your fake show." As she was led away, she continued shouting, "This is what fake, progressive